They saw a man who pulled parts out of other people's junk. That was the easiest way to describe what I did, and I let it stand. Sal's Salvage, 12 acres of rusted metal on the edge of Hardin County, the kind of place a polished woman in a tailored suit would never slow down for on the highway, which was fine by me. My daughter Remai was 12, and she needed me home by 4, and the salvage yard gave me that. So I wore the work gloves and the canvas jacket, and I let people think whatever they thought of a man like me. What I used to be was nobody's business anymore. The trouble started on a Tuesday in late October. A man named Curtis Webb came through my gate at 8:30 in the morning, hat in hand, not looking for parts. He was maybe 60, heavy-shouldered, with the kind of face that had been carrying a long worry and had given up pretending it wasn't there. He said a woman named Patricia Voss had sent him. I didn't react to the name out loud, though I felt it land somewhere quiet and specific in my chest. She said you'd know her, Curtis told me, said to tell you the Kellerton case, 1997. I set down the alternator I was carrying and pointed to the pair of folding chairs outside the office door. "Sit down," I said. His nephew, Marcus Webb, was 23 years old and had been in county lockup for 11 days on an armed robbery charge he swore he didn't commit. The firm handling his public defense had 340 open cases and one paralegal who was out sick. Curtis had gone to 2 private attorneys before coming to me. The first wanted $12,000 up front, cash or certified check, no exceptions. The second had listened carefully, nodded in all the right places, and then told Curtis gently that the county charge would likely resolve cleanest in a plea. Sign the deal, do 18 months, come home. He didn't do it, Curtis said. They all say that, I told him. I know, he leaned forward in the folding chair, but he didn't. I asked him to show me what he had. He pulled a folded piece of paper from his shirt pocket, a gas station receipt, time-stamped 9:47 p.m. on the night of the robbery, 40 minutes north of where the crime occurred, and beside it, a blurry cell phone photo of a man who wasn't Marcus, caught by a neighbor's doorbell camera 2 blocks from the scene. I held both of them for a long moment. Something moved in my chest that I'd told myself was finished and gone. I can't take his case, I said. I'm not practicing. Curtis nodded. He stood up slowly, like a man who had expected that answer and was just tired enough to have come anyway. He put his hat back on. He said, Patricia Voss said you were the only honest man she ever met in a courthouse. He walked back through the gate without looking back. I sat with the receipt in my hand for close to 20 minutes. The yard was quiet around me, just the wind off the highway moving through the rows of stacked cars, rattling something loose in the back row. I thought about Marcus Webb in a county cell doing a kind of waiting I knew something about. The waiting where the hours are all the same color, and the only question is whether the world outside is going to hold. Then I called my old law school friend, Judge Herman Clay, and asked him who was presiding over the Webb arraignment. His name was the Honorable Douglas Fenn. He was 61, methodical, and had a reputation in Kellerton County for a docket that ran on time and a courtroom where the evidence was expected to speak for itself. I knew him from a distance. He knew me the same way. I put the receipt in my shirt pocket, called Remai's after-school program to say I'd be late, and drove downtown. The lobby of the county public defender's office smelled like copy paper and burned coffee. The young attorney assigned to Marcus Webb's case was named Sandra Lim. She was 29, running on too little sleep, with a stack of files on her desk that was genuinely alarming. When I introduced myself, she looked at me the way people look at someone they can't quite place. A man in a canvas jacket with no briefcase, no firm name, no card to hand over. "Are you a family member?" she asked. "No," I said. "I'm someone who might be able to help you, if you can give me 10 minutes. She gave me 7, because 7 was all the margin her day had in it. I laid out what Curtis had shown me, the receipt, the timestamp, the doorbell image. I walked her through what to subpoena and where, which section of the county procedural code gave her the clearest path to a continuance that would survive a challenge, and how to frame the motion language so the assistant DA wouldn't have much of a foothold to oppose it. She wrote quickly and without interrupting. She stopped once and looked up at me over the top of her notepad. "Who are you?" she asked. "A man who knows how this particular machine works," I said. "That's all you need right now." She filed the continuance that afternoon. Here is what I didn't tell Sandra Lim: that I had stood in courtrooms like hers for 27 years, that I had taken 263 cases as a public defender across 3 counties, and that of those, 113 clients had walked out with charges reduced or dismissed entirely. That the last 8 years of my career had been devoted entirely to wrongful conviction appeals, working nights and early mornings, sometimes spending my own money on expert witnesses and travel and document retrieval, because the legal system is real and it carries real weight behind it, but it has cracks in it wide enough to swallow a man whole if nobody stands in them. I didn't tell her I'd stepped away at 51 to raise Ramai after her mother passed, or that the salvage yard was paid for free and clear, no partners, no debt, because I had never once spent money on anything that wasn't the work or the child. None of that was relevant yet. What was relevant was getting Marcus Webb out of that cell. Over the next 3 weeks, I worked the case the way I used to work every case, from the ground, one door at a time. I drove 40 minutes north and walked the gas station myself, and talked to the clerk who had been on duty that night, a retired school bus driver named June, the kind of steady woman who remembered things because she paid attention. She remembered Marcus because he'd helped her carry a crate of water bottles from the storeroom before buying a drink and leaving. I found the doorbell camera owner, a retired postal worker named Ed Carver, who had never once been contacted by anyone connected to the case. I sat at his kitchen table for an hour while he walked me through the footage frame by frame on his phone, unhurried and precise. The man in that footage was not Marcus Webb. Different build, different jacket, different shoes, wrong part of town entirely and not the right time. I brought everything to Sandra. She looked at what I'd put on her conference table and was quiet for a long moment, the way someone is quiet when they are recalculating what they thought they understood. "You've done this before," she said, not quite a question. "A few times," I said. The morning of the hearing, I sat in the back row of the gallery. I had no official standing in that room, and I wanted none. I was there for Curtis, who was in the 3rd row in his good jacket, sitting with the kind of stillness that takes practice. Sandra Lim argued the motion cleanly and without waste. She put Ed Carver on the stand, and he was steady and unshakable, and the footage said what the footage said. The assistant DA, a young man named Garrett who was careful and honest about what he had, reviewed the gas station receipt and June's signed affidavit, and he did not push back hard, because there was nothing solid behind him to push from. Judge Douglas Fenn studied the evidence for a long, measured moment. He looked at the defense table, then he looked out at the gallery. His eyes found me in the back row. "Mr. Rafe Dahlan," he said, "would you approach?" The room shifted in that particular way a courtroom shifts when something unexpected is named aloud. Sandra Lim half-turned in her chair. Curtis looked over his shoulder. A handful of people in the gallery turned around to find the man the judge was looking at. I stood up and walked forward to the bar. "I thought that was you," Judge Fenn said. His voice was dry and unhurried the way it always was. "I presided over 2 of your appeals in this district, the Carver County reversals 2006 and 2009. He paused for a breath. "You built this motion." "I assisted with the research," I said. "Ms. Lim did the work and made the arguments." He held that for a moment. "You were one of the finest public defenders this county ever had," he said. "I have stated that in this courthouse on more than one occasion, for the record. I don't believe you were ever present when I said it." The room was very still. "I appreciate that, Your Honor," I said. He nodded one slow, deliberate nod. Charges dismissed, he said, and then, looking at me a moment longer, it's good to see you in a courtroom again, Mr. Dolan, even from the back row. Marcus Webb came through the gate and shook my hand with both of his. He didn't say a great deal, because there wasn't much that needed to be said between two people who both understood what the last 11 days had cost. Curtis was right behind him, and Curtis did cry briefly, and I let that be exactly what it needed to be. Sandra Lim paused beside me on her way out. There is a plaque on the second-floor hallway, she said. I have walked past it every single day for a year and never once stopped to read it. It says Raphael E. Dolan, Public Defender of the Year 1998 and 2004. She looked at me steadily. That's you. That's me, I said. She considered that for a moment. Will you come talk to my team? Just once. Tell them what you walked me through, the subpoena process, the continuance statute. Some of them have been making it harder than it has to be. I told her I'd think about it. On the drive home, I stopped at the gas station 40 minutes north. June was behind the counter and she recognized me from my visit 3 weeks earlier. She said Marcus had come by that morning before the hearing to thank her for her signed statement. He'd brought a box of those water bottles. She said it was a small thing, and she'd told him so, and he'd told her small things were the ones that mattered most. I thought about that for the whole drive back. Ramai was at the kitchen table when I got home, textbook open, pencil behind her ear, the soup already going on the stove the slow way her mother used to start it, low heat and a lid that didn't quite fit. She looked up at me. "You're late," she said. "I know. Did something happen?" I sat down across from her. "A man named Marcus Webb came home today," I said. "He shouldn't have been where he was, now he's not." She looked at me the way 12-year-olds look at their fathers when they are deciding whether to ask the next thing that's forming. "Is that what you used to do?" she said, "before the yard?" "It's what I did for a long time, yes." She turned back to her textbook, but after a moment, quietly, without looking up, "You should probably do it again sometime." I got up and checked the soup and turned the burner down. I looked out the window at the salvage yard sitting in the last of the afternoon light. 12 acres of other people's discarded things, every one of them still worth something to someone who had taken the time to look. "Maybe," I said, "we'll see." The next morning I drove downtown and told Sandra Lim I'd come speak to her team. She had a conference room booked by 9:15. There were 11 public defenders in that room, most of them young, all of them carrying caseloads that ran too heavy, and when I walked in wearing my canvas jacket they looked at me the same way Sandra had looked at me on day one, a man who didn't quite belong, who didn't have the look of the room. I set my coffee down and opened the folder I had brought. "All right," I said, "let's start from the beginning and talk about how this works." Nobody in that room knew my name when I walked in. By the time I left, they did.